Welcome in, everyone, and a TGIF. It's the First Call podcast. He's Scott Shapiro. I'm Jeremy Plonk, representing BET and Xpressbet. We handicap 8 stakes races from around the country. Normally, we're going North American this week, Scott. North of the border at Woodbine. We're going to go a little half and half with Churchill and Woodbine opening weekend at Churchill Downs for their September meet. We've got Kentucky Downs in the rearview mirror. Del Mar's now finished. Opening day today on Friday at Los Alamitos as we record the podcast. So the seasons are changing here in the racing landscape.
Yeah, that's absolutely the way it feels right now. Once you leave Kentucky Downs, it kind of feels official. I know it's technically still the summer based on the calendar, but the racing calendar points to fall. And up at Woodbine, good card. We've got the big promotion there and some pretty good races to talk about.
It's also closing weekend at a couple tracks around the country, so keep an eye on the schedule. Colonial Downs wraps up on Saturday. Monmouth has their final day of the racing season coming up on Sunday. For those of you watching on X or on YouTube, we appreciate that. Be sure to like, share, and comment in the comment section. Help us to grow the audience for the podcast. For those on our longtime audio channels, here are the races Scott and I will handicap over the next half hour or so. We'll start at Woodbine with 4 of their big 6 stakes races on the Woodbine Mile Day card. The Summer Stakes for the 2-year-olds, the Natalma for the 2-year-old fillies, then the Woodbine Mile, big Breeders' Cup winner. You're in for the first 3 races there that will handicap, and then the Vigil Stakes for the sprinters on the Tapeta at Woodbine. We'll wrap up our handicapping there north of the border. To Churchill Downs, we go on Saturday, where the 2-year-olds are also in the spotlight. The 2-year-old fillies, maybe Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies aspirants in the Pocahontas Stakes. The Locust Grove on the grass. Then we'll go to the Iroquois Stakes for the 2-year-old colts. And we'll wrap things up with the Louisville Thoroughbred Society sprinters on the main track in that one. Want to remind you, if you're playing the Woodbine Mile card this Saturday, be sure to do so with BET and Xpressbet, because we've got a great promo for you. It's the $3,000 Exactathon. Hit 5 $2 minimum exactas on the card. You can play as many as you want, but if you hit 5 of the races, hitting a $2 exacta, you'll share in $3,000 in additional funds with just other players on the platform who hit that many exactas. 1,500 shared amongst those with 5 plus. Another 1,500 goes to the player with the most exactas successfully scored on the program Saturday. The Exactathon is back at Woodbine. Be sure to check that out. Some good international racing this weekend as well. We won't handicap it here, but be sure to check out the action this weekend for the Irish Champions Days. It's Saturday and Sunday, Leopardstown and the Cura. Saturday's big one at Leopardstown, the Irish Champion Stakes. Delacroix expected in that one. Major implications perhaps towards the Breeders' Cup turf, so we'll keep an eye on the Irish Champion Stakes and all the action going on there in the UK Isles. Okay, Scott, let's get handicapping at Woodbine on Saturday. We're going to start things off with the Summer Stakes at Woodbine. It's a 1-turn mile at Woodbine on the grass course. And again, we've got a couple of these grass races this weekend that are all the 1-turn mile configurations. The Summer Stakes, Charlie Appleby won this race a couple years ago in 21 and 22. Andrew Balding won it last year from Europe. So the Europeans have won the summer 3 of the last 4 years. Can the Americans hold court? They've got some international influence in here with the secret adversary in here for James Stack, and also the other international runner in here for Appleby is Wild Desert. So we got 2 international runners amongst this field. Do you like one of those, or are you going to keep it here domestically, if you will, in North America?
You know, Appleby dominated these races for a couple of years, just hasn't been quite as good in North America this year. So taking short prices on his horses that I, don't look like they stand out to me is not what I am willing to do. I'm taking a big swing in here, JP. It looks like a very wide open race where, numbers or how fast horses have run thus far might not mean, how fast they've run thus far. Yeah. Might not mean that much. You got a lot of horses stretching out for the first time. I think there's going to be an honest pace. I'm going to take a big swing with Connections. I was shocked when I saw 20-1 on after handicapping the race with number 3 time frame. This is a horse that is certainly bred to want more ground than he gets it today. Debut took a lot of money for the Connections that you would expect. 2-1 for Cassie and DJ Stable. Didn't do all that much running on debut, but I thought grinded out the win on the turf, moved to the turf last time. Horse that looks like he wants more ground, should get a really good trip here, and you get the Hall of Fame rider at a massive price.
Yeah, John Velasquez in the ride for Cassie in the Woodbine Mile. He's had a lot of success in that race over the years. He knows the trip here at Woodbine. Here is Time Frame winning last time out, and we'll get a chance to see him in maiden company and then make his first stake start coming up on Saturday.
Thundermaker second, Blind River's gone up to be third, a couple away Time Frame on the inside, and then came Ideologist. Well behind is Lennox the Grey, turning on the inside court. In the center, Thundermaker. On their outside, Blind River, Time Frame kicking on, still in front court, and Thundermaker really hard ridden in second to make up the leeway. Time Frame on the inside, Blind River next, and then came Ideologist, but Court has slipped away from them. Out in front court, a couple, two in second. On the inside, Time Frame within the center, Thundermaker and Blind River. Court holding them. Time Frame coming now. Time Frame slipping home on the inside, and Time Frame has come through to win it. Time Frame from Court.
Time Frame, one of the top horses to watch for Mark Cassie's barn. He also has Military Time in this spot. Wild Desert probably goes favorite in here for Appleby and Godolphin. William T. Buick in the ride, of course, from the UK. This is a horse who always gets bet even money in the debut. He was 1-5 at next asking when running second. And then, of course, he stepped up to the Group 2 level in the superlative last time and ran a solid third in there at 7-2. So well backed at 7-2 at Newmarket in a Group 2. He's going to get bet in here. So if you want to beat Wild Desert in here, his price is going to help your price. And Scott, 21 in the morning line, you got to be licking your chops.
Without question. This was a fun race, hard to handicap. You got Two Out Hero is going to be the other horse that takes a lot of money, but has only been sprinting thus far, wants to be a part of the early pace, is out of a dam that was a turf sprinter, basically. Bill of Ice is another horse that could finish with a big price. So fun race. I think it's more wide open than the morning lines may suggest.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the internationals. Cassie actually has 3 in there. He's got Jupiter as well. You've got Miguel Clement with the shipper. You got a couple for Kevin Attard, who takes money in Canada. So really a good betting race to start things off in the summer stakes. That's race number 6. We'll skip the 7th and move ahead to the 8th race on Saturday at Woodbine. Next up for us is the Natalma Stakes. Mark Cassie's owned this race over the years. He won it last year for the 8th time. We'll see if Cassie can add a lucky number 9. Scott, little trivia for you. Natalma, the horse this race is named after. She was a famous broodmare of which Canadian legend? There's really only one Canadian. Well,
Dan Smartley?
Northern Dancer.
Wow. I really went
in the ballpark. The Natalma, the dam of the great Northern Dancer. So the race in her honor here.
This one I remember watching in the Breeders' Cup, I think, right? But
I was predating you with Northern Dancer for sure. No question about that.
Yeah, of course.
Europeans have won this race 3 of the last 10, 2 of those from Charlie Appleby. But like we mentioned, it's been Mark Cassie's race over the years. He's got Pina Colada in here. He's got Sweet Fusion. So Cassie well represented. He's got 2, but neither one of those horses are going to contend for favoritism, both coming off second place finishes last time out. If Cassie's to get number 9, you'll probably get a fair price on him. How'd you end up shaking out the Natalma?
Well, firstly, I apologize. That feels like the first trivia you were disappointed in me, the way you were saying Northern Dancer. Normally, you don't expect it, but that was disappointing to you. Anyhow, hopefully number 10, Deep Learning, does not disappoint for me. Shipping up north for Chad Brown, who has raced 16 times in Grade 1s at Woodbine over the last 5 years and only has 2 wins. But, man, I was pretty impressed with this filly on debut. She took the money you'd like to see from a well-meant Chad Brown Klarovich runner. Kind of important to me. You don't want them to see them, in my opinion, going off surprising the barn, because they have a pretty good feel for who's Chad wins a lot of races and knows kind of where to start them. I was really impressed. The number was good. This horse finished very, very well. Good late pace rating of 87 for a firster gone 2 turns. Yeah. But it was more the fact that she ran down the 2 speeds. This race did not fall apart. It was not a big setup like you normally see from a 2-year-old that's going to win first time out going 2 turns. So Deep Learning looks like she has a lot of talent. She'll have to overcome the outside draw, though.
She's the one to beat in here off of this performance in the last 1/8 of a mile. She looked really good finishing at Saratoga.
They're at the top of the stretch. Beach Ballad shifts in a touch. Fraudster up alongside. And Deep Learning is now kicking in with class. Here's Deep Learning on the outside, coming swiftly to inhale the top pair. And what a promising debut for Deep Learning, who strolls in by almost 4 lengths.
Scott, I was all set to circle her in my past performances and make her the winner of the Natalma Stakes, but then I got the Hot Mash, and I got to tell you, I'm a really big fan of Hot Mash. This victory in the turf sprint at Kentucky Downs was really a sharp win for her. She drew off one ball, almost 8, going 5.5 on the turf, which you never see. She was impressive that day. She's by not this time, and John Service took her away from Parks and had her in Kentucky at Turfway training on the synthetic to go to Ellis to run for more money, to run a $99,000 debut race instead of running at Parks for much less. I think is a pretty shrewd move. And then they kept her at Turfway afterwards, trained towards this. I know they were looking at the Natalma and maybe another prep towards the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. They think they've got a Breeders' Cup horse here. And I think Hot Mash is going to be awfully strong in here. She is coming out of the 5.5. But again, I don't think there's any reason with the smart strike on the dam side of the pedigree. There's a lot to like about this filly going even farther. I think she's going to be really tough. If Chad's horse wasn't here, I'd have all the chips pushed to the middle of the table here. I have a lot of fear of Deep Learning in here, though. But if Hot Mash doesn't run well, I'll be very surprised.
Well, we feel exactly the same. I had a hard time deciding. If I saw the morning lines before I gave picks out and whatnot, I would have definitely gone the other way, but did an early preview of this for the form. Hot Mash is certainly a major contender. If she's 6-1 and Deep Learning is 5-2, it's a no-brainer who you bet. I am hoping Dance to the Music takes the money. Maybe she's a freak. Yeah. I'm willing to gamble that she's not, and then I think the 6 and the 10, Hot Mash and Deep Learning, serious, looking like serious contenders for the Breeders' Cup, or at least look like they're very live in this spot.
Dance to the Music, 2 for 2. It's Appleby and Godolphin in there. William Buick. Again, the 2 wins, though, narrow victories, a neck and a length, and wasn't favored in either one. 5-2 and 2-1, backed, but not favored in either start. Be the first time around the bend for that one, who's run on the straight. Dance to the Music, for our sake, I hope, takes more money and gives us better prices on the 2 we like in there, though. I'm with you, though. I think it's Deep Learning and Hot Mash, those 2, and hopefully we can get through the Natalma Stakes. Now, if you're looking at a daily double from the Natalma perhaps to the Woodbine Mile, might be a good hook up there. So if you got a horse you like in the 8th to the 9th, because the featured Woodbine Mile is next up on our handicapping journey. Woodbine Mile here at, of course, Woodbine $1 million race. Win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Mile. This race has had a lot of influence on the Breeders' Cup Mile over the years. Last year, not so much. When we had the upset winner in here, it was 13-1, almost 14-1 on Win for the Money. That runner didn't come back and factor much in the Breeders' Cup Mile at finishing 10th that day. But this is a pretty good bounce back race, I think, for a couple horses that they get in this race internationally. It wasn't a strong international cast last year in the Woodbine Mile. They bet the Appleby horse to sub-even money odds on, but I think this is a much better Appleby representative this year. Notable Speech. Notable Speech is going to be a very solid favorite in this year's Woodbine Mile, coming off a race in the Prix Jacques Lemoine in France, the top mile race in France, and always a real indicative race towards Breeders' Cup Mile success. A good second last out for Notable Speech in that one. We saw this horse in the Breeders' Cup Mile last year, rally running 3rd, beating 3/4 of a length without the greatest trip in the world. I think Notable Speech is going to be a fairly short price in here. He's got the South African One Stripe, a horse who's never raced outside of South Africa for trainer Graham Motion. Of course, Motion won last week with Give Me Another, a South African export that he won out at Del Mar with in the John C. Maybe. So Motion's trying to strike 2 weeks in a row with the South African exports. One Stripe certainly one to watch in here, but Notable Speech to me is definitely going to be the favorite.
Yeah, you heard me talk about how I'm going to fade the Applebee's today, and I am going to stick to it. 3 for 25 in North America over the last year with $1 ROI. Mm-hmm. If you beat 2 of them, you're ahead, and maybe Notable Speech is the one that wins. He ran well in that Breeders' Cup Mile. He was outkicked, but outkicked by 2 very good horses, particularly the winner More Than Looks. You could argue he's not coming in as in good a form, but, he is coming in good form based on what you said. My knock on him is the price and the fact that he's coming in on less than a month's rest. I mean, is Appleby he's the class of the field, but I don't have a lot of knocks on him other than what I just said. I just think Win for the Money's in a really good spot here. Again, trying to win the race for the second straight year for Cassie. You go back to the Kelso, which I thought was a total toss when he was caught wide on a day where you wanted to be on the inside. That was a day where a lot of sharp handicappers liked him off the layoff. I wasn't one of them. I got lucky with that lack of trip. The 4-star Dave, he ran into some really good horses that day. He did get a bit like kind of a loose pocket trip. I thought he galloped out well. His chance to win, another big race, probably for his career. He's a 6-year-old gelding. I think we're going to see his best, and I think he's going to be able to stalk just off the early pace setters, My Boy Prince and Huntmaster, and hopefully get the jump on the international invaders.
It's pretty remarkable that he's 6 years old for Mark Casse. He's won the Woodbine Mile, and that's his only start he's ever had on the turf at Woodbine. I mean, like, you would just think that he's had more experience over the course, but what he had last year turned out awfully good for him. Let's go back to the 2024 Woodbine Mile.
Waiting in the wings, though, is Naval Power and William Buick as they corner. And first for the judge is Fila de Ariana. Naval Power presented with a real run up the inside and win for the money. They're coming, and down the outside, Niagara Skyline. Big Rock is starting to finish well from absolute last, right down the outside. Fila de Ariana in front. On the inside, win for the money. Kicking on is Naval Power, and here comes Big Rock right down the outside. Win for the money's gone to the front. Down the outside, Big Rock, and win for the money. Goes on to win the Rogers Woodbine Mile by 2 lengths.
We'll see if he can repeat in the Woodbine Mile, a tall test, if you will. And you got a good price last year, and I think it'll be a fair price again. I don't think it'll be 13 to 1 in this spot, but I think half of that, I think you're going to get somewhere in the 6 to 1 to 8 to 1 range on him.
I would hope so. Even 5 to 1, I think, would be fair. I think maybe the reason a lot when he was treated more like an all-weather horse in many ways. So when he used to come to Woodbine, he would right when he used to run on the all-weather there. I'm just trying.
Yeah,
you brought up a very interesting point. It seems like he's kind of grown into this a little bit, but he was always somewhat of a turf horse. But yeah, this is his spot, and my guess is maybe not for Notable Speech being like his race, if you will. So.
Yeah, I don't see them being Notable Speech in here. I really think he's the Appleby I feel most comfortable in the 3 races for sure.
What price do you think he's going to be?
3 to 5.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I think he's going to get hammered. I think he's going to get absolutely smoked. So I don't think he's a great bet, and that's why I tried in the race of the week. I tried to work him in an exact or a daily double, trying to take the winner that we like, the Hot Mash in the previous race, and go into him that way, and try to get a double into him and try to compound a little value by the previous spot.
I steered our colleague Bailey Armour wrong, maybe on Horse Sense yesterday, telling her I thought that he would be above, he wouldn't be that short of a price. I thought he might be 8 to 5, 9 to 5, but yep, you're probably right.
I mean, unless they bet Graham's horse, I don't know who else they would bet.
No, I know the Graham horse. I can't see taking that kind of money. So it's
right. So that's why I just think he's going to be odds on. We'll see how it shakes out in the Woodbine Mile. That's race number 9. Again, be sure to play the exactathon. This might be a race if you feel like there's an easy exacta in this particular spot, at least a heavy favorite on top. Work your exactas and try to knock out one of those exactathon races in the Woodbine Mile. Might be a good approach to it. To the 10th race we go at Woodbine. It's the Vigil Stakes, grade 350,000. These are usually the top sprinters. It's open company, but the top sprinters in Canada have made a haven in this race. Pink Lloyd won it 4 years in a row from 2017 to 2020. The last 2 years, it was Patches O'Houlihan, of course, the ill-fated late great horse of the year, Patches O'Houlihan. So the top sprinters in Canada seem to just kind of nest here and run out a little streak, and that could be what we're seeing with Simcoe, Scott. He has really evolved. His last couple of races have been sharp. His last in the Bold Venture was otherworldly for him, and there's not much in this field. If he runs back to this performance we're about to see, I don't see how they're going to beat Simcoe in this race. Let's go back and take a look at his win in the Bold Venture August 16th.
In the Bold Venture, Simcoe well ahead. Out 4 lengths, Old Chestnut in second, and then Victory Achieved. They come inside the final furlong, and it is Rafael Hernandez, Simcoe, about 4 or 5 in front. Victory Achieved in second. This has been a one-act affair, completely shutting them out. Simcoe strolls in by 5.5 to Victory Achieved.
The only real outsider in here from, out of town, Horsepower for Joe Orsino coming up off some efforts in the Mid-Atlantic. Stakes winner on the synthetic at Presque Isle, exits a race at Colonial. I don't see the locals warming him up.
Nah, he should be loose on the lead in the race, which adds to the fact when you're the fastest horse in the best form and you're loose on the lead, that's usually that's usually the likeliest type of winners.
Mhm.
I guess you could make the case that Victory Achieve, who didn't break well last out in the Bold Venture, could put some pressure, but I don't even know if they'll want to. They might just be happy to stalk and hopefully grind away second against this field. But yeah, I mean, this is a horse moving in the right direction for a trainer that has been winning at a 20% clip and is, regularly knows what she's doing. She brings some horses down to Kentucky every now and then.
Yeah.
And of course, likes the surface. Very, very difficult for me to get past Simcoe.
Regular rider Rafael Hernandez back up for Katerina Vasileva. We'll see if Simcoe can run out his second straight stakes win individual. Now, we want to remind you there are mandatory payouts on Saturday at Woodbine in the Pick 6. There's a carryover right now. I believe Canadian around 80,000, 90,000 Canadian in the carryover right now for the Pick 6 at Woodbine if it's not hit today. But there will be a mandatory payout in the 20-cent Pick 6 on Saturday. So if it sounds like, look, short price here, maybe with Simcoe, maybe short price, in the Woodbine Mile, maybe you're looking at a Pick 6 ticket where you can spread in some other legs. But I think the Pick 6 will be attractive to look at on Saturday. I'll have a blog for that up on the Xpressbet and FirstBet websites a little bit later today for your handicapping for Saturday's card. That's Woodbine Mile Day, north of the border at Woodbine Racetrack. Now we go to Churchill Downs in the Commonwealth of Kentucky for 4 stakes races on the opening Saturday of the card at Churchill Downs. We're going to look at the Pocahontas, the Locust Grove, the Iroquois, and the Louisville Breeders or Thoroughbred Society. So to the Pocahontas stakes we go. Next up, Scott, race number 6 on the card. Kenny McPeek's had a lot of success in this race over the years. He's won it a record 4 times. He's got 2 of them entered in here, taken by the wind, and our 2 girls, the 3 and the 5 in here, both trained by McPeek, both coming off debut wins. Can he get win number 5, or are you looking somewhere else?
I'm going to look somewhere else in here. Our 2 girls, the 5, got a classic Brian Hernandez up the rail trip to beat the 2 Miscomplicated in here, who I give a better shot as a maiden to win this race. And Taken by the Wind got a real good trip, 13-1 in a 7-horse field. Was fast, was a little bit goofy, and was in much softer competition than she meets. I think Dazzling Dame, who I think we're going to take a look at her sorority win after I give out a thought here, is the one to beat, but I'm not in love with the fact that she's cutting back in distance to a 1-turn race as a speed horse after going 2 turns. That seems odd for a young horse. I'm going to take a swing with the Greg Compton trainee. This is a barn that's 3 of 6 over the last couple of weeks, and number 7 Embrace the Moment. I thought, hey, $140,000 daughter of Yalpin for this barn and these connections. 2-5 down in Delaware was expected to be good. And I don't think she needs the lead like the one running line suggests watching the race. I think she's going to appreciate being on the outside where it is an advantage in these 1-turn mile races, especially for young horses. It's definitely an advantage to be towards the outside in these races at Churchill Downs, especially when the outside isn't the 14-hole or something. So I like the post here for both the favorite and Embrace the Moment.
She wheels back on about 16 days rest. Dazzling Dame, the only stakes winner in the field to this point, as you mentioned, winning the sorority at Monmouth.
Dazzling Dame neck in front. Fond of You still there with her. Dazzling Dame lets it out a notch. Fond of You is asked for more now in second. Dazzling Dame keeps going. Dazzling Dame's putting away Fond of You's left behind in second. Spitfire trying to re-rally on the grandstand side. 1 furlong to go. Dazzling Dame in front. Spitfire's trying to run her down. She's gaining some ground, but time's running out. Dazzling Dame a 2-length lead. Spitfire trying, but she's not going to get there. Dazzling Dame, Jevion Toledo to win the sorority stakes.
That's a look at some of the leading contenders for the Pocahontas Stakes. I'm going to pass on it. I just don't like anybody. I can't find anybody in the race I like. You are forced to make a pick, though, for the purpose of the podcast, so I'm going to hold you to it on Embrace the Moment.
First world problems for us public handicappers. But, yeah, it was a race where I kept getting, wanting to play against horses more. Miscomplicated would be the other one. She's been betting both of her starts for a barn that doesn't really win first out. Usually when they're bet for Ian Wilkes, they have some ability. But I think she's kind of found ways to lose in her last couple of races. So we'll take a small shot in there. I'm glad it's not part of the late pick 5.
Let's go to the 7th race Saturday at Churchill Downs. It's the Locust Grove Grade 2 company in here, and a mile and a 16th. potential Breeders' Cup distaff types in here, but they are not of that kind of quality, I don't think. Free Like a Girl has run against some of the better distaff quality runners, but for the most part, this race is horses coming out of the Marie Holman George at Horseshoe Indianapolis, the Groupie Doll at Ellis Park. You do have a horse like Royal Spa, who last time did run fourth in the Clement Hirsch out of at Del Mar, but was primarily a grade 2, grade 3 type prior to that. So I'm not so sure what we've got in this race in terms of real Breeders' Cup distaff type hopefuls, but a good second tier kind of race in the Locust Grove.
Yeah, if this is not the top tier, I'm sure those that run well will consider going out west. Royal Spa tried to do that in the Clement Hirsch, and 2-3 back in the Shawnee. She ran her eyeballs out. I don't think she's been the same mare since that race. And then the Ship Out West to boot didn't run much there. I'm against Royal Spa here, and I'm always against Alpine Princess. She's been a money burner. 2 back, she beat me in the aforementioned Horseshoe Indianapolis race, but she was along the inside, as we'll take a look at her. More inside, but more so very speed favoring racetrack. And it's why I do prefer Our Pretty Woman. I think not only does she have more upside, but she'll be a better price. She was stalking. They ran 1-2 around the track. Steve Asmussen gave her time after that career fastest effort. It could be one of two things. Either something went wrong and she's never going to get back to that performance, the time off. But to me, it's Steve kind of giving her time after the big effort and then regrouping, getting her ready for a couple big races in the fall. I'll cross my fingers. That's what's going on.
Let's go back and take a look at that race. Alpine Princess, Our Pretty Woman at Horseshoe Indianapolis. The race is the Marie Holman George, named for the lady famous for saying, "Gentlemen, start your engines" at the Indy 500. Let's take a look back and see whose engine was humming.
As these fillies and mares come for home, it's Alpine Princess looking to seal the deal from Our Pretty Woman. 3/4 and 1 at 10.40 seconds. The Wild Machado and Alpine Princess. Alpine Princess finding 1 furlong to go. Our Pretty Woman is fully stretched by Alpine Princess, who's now in front, still past the 16th from Our Pretty Woman, second best all the way around. Alpine Princess, wire to wire, in the Mary Holman George Memorial.
Scott looking to flip the script in that one with the move in venues from Horseshoe Indy to Churchill Downs. We go to the 8th race on Saturday at Churchill. The road to the Kentucky Derby officially starts here in terms of the points chase. Last year's winner, Jonathan's Way. Nice horse, but not a Kentucky Derby runner. We haven't seen a lot of Derby influence out of this race over the years. You go back, a nice winner, and not this time, obviously, who had a shortened career, but has turned out to be quite a stallion, winning this race in 2016. Court Vision was pretty decent back in his day. Harlan's Holiday, but there's not a lot of history in the last 20-30 years of the Iroquois have an impact on the first Saturday in May, but they will get points towards the Kentucky Derby, as there are more than 50 races in the Road to the Kentucky Derby series of points races throughout the course of the next, what do we got, 9 months to the Derby, something like that. So 50 plus races to earn points. This will be the first of them.
8 months.
8 months. Who gets to put something in their column towards the Derby?
Well, it's not an exciting selection here, but I was looking around, and it's not a horse I'm going to run to the window and bet, but trying to beat, and I kind of remember this from handicapping every race every day at Churchill for 3 years. When the Keneally money, Eddie Keneally barn money comes in, it's tough to beat, whether that be with a favorite or just a horse to bet down. But what I noticed the last 5 years at Churchill Downs, Mr. Keneally, who trains the 7 Comport, 6-5 favorite, 30 for 72 with favorites at Churchill Downs over the last 5 years for a 215 ROI. That's not an easy thing to do, to have a positive ROI.
Yeah.
And this horse just kind of handled the field in the juvenile. I don't think he is a horse that's going to be in the gates on the first Saturday in May. I've been wrong before, but I think he's going to get a graded stakes win here and continue to prove that he's kind of the best in this division in Kentucky right now.
Comport Spice Runner coming out of a 1-2 finish in the Ellis Park Juvenile. Let's take a look at it.
Comport to turn up the pressure on Spice Runner, and Comport has his head in front. Spice Runner's under pressure from second. And third is Pop again. He needs to go along the inside. Shake and Rattle made a brief bid. He has flattened out just a bit. It's Comport's race at the top of the lane in the 10th running of the Ellis Park Juvenile. Spice Runner is trying to find something. He's coming back. Comport, Spice Runner. Comport going just a little better to the 16th. Spice Runner is giving him a good fight, but Comport's just just a little better. Comport wins the Ellis Park Juvenile.
And you see with the post draw, you can see this exact same scenario playing out again, just to the inside. In the 5 is Spice Runner, Comport's the 7. They have the similar running styles. There's not a ton of early speed in this race. Maybe the 2 sometimes shows some speed, but you could see Spice Runner and then Comport just to his outside turning for home. And this is a 1-turn mile. That was 7/8 of a mile coming out of the chute there on the backstretch at Ellis Park. This could be a real carbon copy kind of race.
Yeah, it looks like it. If I'm looking for prices, I could say, Will Walden has been a tough guy to not use, not bet on this year. 8 Boss won from well off the pace on debut at Ellis. Don't love the bet horses back off slow breaks, but it was along the inside. There's some dynamics there. And maybe even 9 Ball for Riley Mott, who got a big win with World Beater last weekend. But Comport looks like he should handle Spice Runner at the very least to me, and that's going to make him the clear one to beat.
If you're looking for one to jack up the exotics, look at Shake and Rattle, 20-1 here. 4th in that Ellis Juvenile. Keith DeSormo's got a way of blowing up the tote board over the years. He's really cramming starts here. This horse ran August 10th. They came back to 28th. They're running a rich allowance race on the turf at Kentucky Downs, a race won by Street Beast, who was really, really impressive. Then he comes back real quickly again. So Shake and Rattle, kind of interesting in here to me to keep an eye on. Street Beast came right back and won out of that race next out. So this is an interesting horse, I think, for underneath, but I don't think he can get the victory in here. I think it'll be one of the other horses out of the Ellis Juvenile, but Shake and Rattle underneath, I'm going to throw in there if you want to get into the deeper exotics. Let's finish things up with race number 10, Saturday at Churchill Downs, 6 furlong sprint here in the Louisville Thoroughbred Society, $300,000 on the line. And this race got a very interesting entrant. There's a field of 11. Skelly, well known, of course, in the region. Nash, a really top-notch sprinter. World record has been running exceptionally this year. But Ben Tornado, we haven't seen him since the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year, where he almost pulled the 28-1 upset. He ran a banger of a race that day. He gets Irad Ortiz back aboard. We're going to see Ben Tornado for the first time since November. Let's refresh our memories on how good he was at Del Mar.
Federal Judge turning for home with a narrow lead over Ben Tornado. The 2 of them locked in battle, and Straight No Chaser joins the fray on the outside with 1 furlong to run. Ben Tornado and Straight No Chaser, these 2 coming down to the line together. Straight No Chaser and Ben Tornado. Straight No Chaser in the Breeders' Cup Sprint.
Ben Tornado back in action now. Is he ready to go off that kind of layoff? Only 6 furlongs, but 6 furlongs is breakneck from the start. I mean, they go from the jump, and they're going to be fast fractions in here. So just because the distance doesn't mean it's necessarily an easy comeback race. Sometimes a 1-turn mile can be an easier comeback race than going 3/4 like this. So what do you make of Ben Tornado first time back against a field where there are some other options?
Doesn't that just feel like this is just a clear prep for the Breeders' Cup Sprint? Like that, sure. Whatever happens, happens. I mean, does he have to be better? I would argue, and you look, there's graded stakes race on this card. This race isn't graded. There's even a grade 2, I think, right? Mm-hmm. And this race is better than all of them. It's just funny. I mean, it's not necessarily because these horses are grade 1 caliber at the moment, but it's just a fun race and fun to handicap. And it's just tough when there's a lot of options to look around that you're a little bit attractive to take a shorter price on this horse. But man, if he runs back to those efforts we saw towards the tail end of his 3-year-old season, he's going to win. I mean, you would also anticipate as a 4-year-old, maybe a move forward, but too many variables for me to swallow a short price. We talked about Nash last time. I took a shot with him in the Vanderbilt. I could make it. He didn't do much running, but he was cost basically off chance in the start. And you mentioned it last time. I mean, he might just love Churchill, and I'm hoping that that's the case here. He just loves Churchill. I'm hoping it's not the Lasix. It's more Churchill. I think it is. He ran well in the Pat Day Mile without Lasix. So we'll go with Nash here, getting back home, not cutting back in distance, getting back to the track he likes, and he's been freshened up. So I think back to a little bit more realistic level. I mean, Bookham Dano, Mulligan, they're faster than Nash, plain and simple.
Yeah. Full Moon Madness in this race, won the Tom Fool earlier this year. Skelly, an alum of the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year, second in this race, beating the neck last year as the favorite. But Skelly is, Mr. Oaklawn. And when he gets away from Oaklawn, then he's kind of a little bit more suspect. This is a really good race. Roll On Big Joe won the Kelly's Landing and near wire-to-wire style back in June during the end of the summer or the spring meet. World record in here. A horse who was second in the Aristides behind Durante, who's also in this field. This is kind of like the Churchill Sprint All-Star game in here. And like you said, for a listed stakes, this is a really good race. If you're playing the multi-race wagers, I think you want to get some depth in this one.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think world record's quite vulnerable at 4-1, but what I think about him is I don't think Skelly's going to, Skelly needs it all his way. All it takes is one horse to take him slightly off his game, and it's over for him basically against this level. Yeah. So I think those two and even Roll On Big Joe, keep it honest. And Ben Tornado off a long layoff. So that's the other thing with Nash is I just think he's going to be in that second tier where you might want to be.
Durante might get a really nice trip in here, too. 12-1 on the morning line. On the turf sprint last time at Kentucky Downs, draw a line through that in his previous races. Kind of put him right there. 3/4 of a length back into Kelly's Landing. He won the Aristides. I know he was 30-1, 33-1 that day when he won the Aristides, but he's going to be a big price again. I wouldn't be surprised with the trip if Durante doesn't run a good race in here. He's a 10-time winner. He knows his way to the winner's circle. That's going to be my upset pick here in the 10th, the Louisville Thoroughbred Society. Give me Durante in that one. That's going to wrap up our handicapping of 8 stakes races between Woodbine and Churchill Downs. Again, I want to remind you we've got closing weekend this week, Saturday at Colonial Downs, Sunday at Monmouth Park. So 2 meets are going to bid adieu after this weekend. Also good racing around the country. Of course, you can watch and wager on all of it with First Bet and Xpressbet, including some international racing this weekend. Irish Champions Days. There's a 2-day festival, Leopardstown and the Curragh on Saturday and Sunday. Be sure to watch and wager with all that. You get 10 times first rewards points on all those races Saturday and Sunday when you bet those races from Ireland with First Bet and Xpressbet. Scott, give you the final word on the weekend.
Yeah, we got the Bluegrass and we got Toronto this week, a little bit different than the weeks past, but the road to the Breeders' Cup is upon us, and we get some of these races at Woodbine particularly that always have implications in their turf races and the Breeders' Cup turf races. So looking forward to it.
On behalf of Scott, I'm Jeremy, and everybody with First Bet and Xpressbet. Have a great weekend, everybody.